Welcome back to the Snowpoint Cast. Today we're going to be looking at a game between Trevor Read and Josh Fernando. Trevor's going to be on the right playing Gengar, and then Josh is going to be on the left playing Dialgachomp. Kind of an interesting matchup here. There's a lot of like nuances that are pretty important. Gengar level X is a pretty important card in this matchup. Hitting a Dialgachomp level X is also pretty important, and those cards interacting is a pretty big part of this matchup. Overall, I think I'd say that Dialgachomp has a slight advantage here, just because you know, psychic resistance is great, and then also you have the ability to shut off Spiritomb, so you can get your Poke turns and stuff back. But alternatively, Gengar does have that option to, if they can't get that level XR, they can shuffle the Dialgachomp level X into the deck, judge, and then you know, potentially, I mean, you don't have to judge, but if you judge in that same turn, it's great because you get to deny them hand. Because if you've been denying them a bunch of trainers, being able to shuffle them back and then item lock your opponent again, like if they have a Cyrus, honestly, a lot of the time they chain Cyrus, so they probably have another supporter in their hand. But when you get that opportunity to judge, they might draw the Dialga again, but they also probably aren't going to have the cards in their hand that they need. So we're going to see what the starts are here for these guys and see what they can pull off. I think that 2 mulligans on Trevor's side is definitely going to help out a little bit. I mean, getting those additional cards, especially when you're a stage 2 deck against like an SP deck, you definitely need a little bit more setup. Josh's list, the list that he's playing, plays a 2/2 Dialgachomp level X as well, so that's going to be a little, that's a rough starter. Definitely not the hand at the starter you want to see as the last card in your hand, because that hand is like okay, but the starter is not great with it. So yeah, starts a Spiritomb to an Azelf. Definitely not awesome for Josh, but pretty good looking for Trevor. If you ever start Spiritomb with Gengar, you're definitely chilling pretty fat. So Josh attaches a Warp and then passes just to retreat next turn, so he has something to retreat. Not what you want at all, but definitely could have a worse turn. I mean, you could have missed an energy drop that turn. That could be pretty bad. So Trevor goes for Roseanne's here. Let's see what he can get. Just gonna go for a Baltoy and probably a Ghastly makes sense. I mean, depends what he has in hand. He might get an energy card as well, depending on what's in his hand. But I mean, Baltoy Ghastly does make a lot of sense here. Usually one of your first searches with Roseanne's, or you know, whatever Pokemon search that you find in this deck, is for a Baltoy, just because as soon as you can Darkness Grace to a Baltoy, you get a Claydol out, and then you start seeing more cards. So definitely the first target that you want to be using with your Pokemon search in this matchup. Trevor's probably just gonna get a Claydol out and then chill. Oh, he has that energy too, so that's actually a really nice turn for him. He gets the energy on the Ghastly, and he's gonna have a Claydol for next turn. And Josh is not in an amazing spot here. I mean, he didn't get an attach on a Garchomp. If he got an attach, if he like started a Garchomp, got an attach off, he would have had the potential to go level X, kill the Claydol this turn, but I just don't think that's gonna happen because he's trainer locked right now. I mean, yeah, no, there's just like no way it's gonna happen. Kind of unfortunate, but hopefully you can get that Claydol out of there before it starts to draw some real cards. The longer you're playing a Garchomp deck against your opponent who's playing a Claydol deck, if you like let them get free turns with Claydol, that's kind of the reason you play Garchomp, is so that they don't get that. So definitely be aggressive on the Claydols if you're ever playing against, like especially in this matchup, like if you're playing against a stage 2 deck, they need to see cards because they need to like set up their stage 2s. So shutting that off for them can definitely turn you into a space where you can lock with Dialga for the rest of the game. But definitely a decent, oh, it goes for the Haunter, not the Claydol. Definitely interesting. He probably has the Gengar in his hand is what it is. So he's planning on maybe attacking next, oh, he can't attack next turn, no. But yeah, he probably has a Gengar in his hand because he's definitely planning on evolving it. Honestly, I think the Haunter plays kind of good because going for the Haunter, I mean, Darkness Grace for the Haunter means that he can evolve this turn, and then next turn he gets to level X, and getting out that level X is really important because it lets you keep that trainer lock. Dialgachomp level X's Pokebody shuts off all other Pokebodies other than SP Pokemon. So I mean, it shuts off Spiritomb, and that's a pretty big part of this deck. You switch into Spiritomb and then trainer lock your opponent, and when you don't have that, the deck is definitely not as strong. So I think Trevor going for the Haunter, he must have a Gengar in his hand. He's got a game plan. He must be going for that Gengar level X so that he can shuffle back the Dialgachomp level X eventually when it comes out. So definitely an interesting strategy. And I mean, based on different hands, you want different stuff. If he had nothing in his hand, I'm sure he would have got the Claydol. But yeah, he's chilling right now. He's got a Bebe search, so he's going to get that Claydol anyway. So yeah, definitely a good call on Trevor's part. And getting that Haunter means that you can evolve this turn, and it's just one less turn until you hit that level X. And especially with Josh having the slow start, like this is such a bad start for Josh. He's really unfortunate. I mean, you're still able to come back, but definitely not what you want to be doing against a Gengar deck. You definitely don't want to be chilling for a bunch of turns. If you let them set up, they can... I mean, Shadow Skip is such a good attack. That Arceus Gengar that just dropped has Shadow Skip. You do 60, and then you snipe one somewhere, and then you switch to the bench. So the whole strategy of the deck really is you put that Gengar out, put a level X on it, and then switch, attack, put a Spiritomb up, and then your opponent is trainer locked, and they're taking prizes off Spiritombs and not your energy. So definitely a really good card. And that is Trevor's strategy. So he's going to go for the Gengar, and then he's probably going to try to get the level X out here pretty quick. And I mean, if he hits that level X, Josh is not in a position where he can really do anything, really. I mean, he doesn't have a ton of stuff on board to deal with that. And like, as soon as you get that on board, you just get to shuffle your opponent's level X's back. So even if he does hit that Dialgachomp level X, it's not like he just like gets to keep it on the board. He has to, you know, get it shuffled back and find it every turn, which is definitely a pain in the butt. So Josh is going to go for, Trevor's going to go for a Duskull bench, and then he's going to get the Dusclops. I do like that a lot, especially with the Uxie and the Azelf. That's 2 slots on the bench that you really can't... it's not... I mean, starting Azelf's awful, but you really don't want them on the bench when they have a Dusclops out, because now really his bench is limited to 1, essentially, because he's got an active Pokemon that can be good, and then a bench Pokemon that can be good. And as soon as he starts benching over that, he's put in a position where Trevor can just target his energy and shuffle his energy back with the Duskull. So yeah, Josh is just going to do that. So he's going to go for a Garchomp, Dialga, and a Q. Q is okay. I think Q to keep the energy on is really good. It just means that he can potentially get that back with Bronzong later. And with the missed energy on turn 2, I mean, retreating here is really not what you want to see. Oh, he puts it on the Uxie. Interesting. Yeah, I think that's okay, but also keeping the energy is pretty good too. I guess when you put the Uxie as a Q, you get to level exit and retreat it, which makes sense, but again, the energy, especially when you miss that turn, it could be really important later. Okay, so Trevor gets the Dusknoir, definitely a solid asset on his board. It just means that Josh can't really bench any other Pokemon unless he's ready to get one shuffled back. And the thing about Gengar is it plays 2 Warp Point as well. So Warp Point lets you switch, and then your opponent is forced to switch. So if they have something active that they really don't want to shuffle in, if they have 4 bench Pokemon, you can Warp Point them, and then just Dusknoir their active Pokemon that they have all their energy on. So definitely a bit of a precarious position for Josh. He did get a special medal on that Dialga though, so it's not so bad. Yeah, definitely. Oh, I'm so dumb. The Q, he doesn't need to have a Q on the unknown because Moonlight Stadium. That was silly of me. But yeah, I mean, same strategy. Josh had the same idea. You just get to keep the energy, and keeping the energy is definitely really important. It just means this turn he's able to hit like potentially a Bronzong to start attacking. That bench sucks so bad though, because Trevor's board is starting to get really threatening here. And I mean, when you get a Gengar into play and a Dusknoir, if he starts getting this Nidoqueen into play, it's just like the stuff's not going to happen for Josh, because that control is so good. As soon as you have an Arceus Gengar, Gengar level X, and a Dusknoir on your board, you can really just control what your opponent has out. So he does hit that energy as well. So he's going to free retreat and then Shadow Skip and probably put 10 on Dialga. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, definitely gonna be chipping away at that Dialga. I'm not sure if that actually even works like that. I don't know if it's a damage or a damage counter. If it's a damage counter, it can work like that, but because of special metal, that's actually not a thing. So I'm gonna look that up right now and see if that's a thing. I think that shouldn't do any damage because of the special metal, but let me double check on that. Gengar Arceus. Yeah, so he does find the level X here, which is definitely nice. He's going to deafen, but it might be too late. Like, he's not in a position where he can really do anything other than deafen. And if Trevor can hit the Candy Nidoqueen next turn after retreating, it's like that damage doesn't even matter right now. Like, the deafen damage is nothing. You need to start second striking or remove Losting so that you can just Oko these Spiritombs. But he's going to definitely take some damage here from the Gengar. Not that big of a deal. He does have a special metal and psychic resistance, so it's not as bad as it could be, but Oh yeah, so it is 10 damage. So that damage counter shouldn't be there because of the special metal. But, you know, I guess we'll just say Trevor needs all the help he can get here, even though he's got such a dominant board position. So he's going to go for a judge. Definitely a solid call. I don't know if he's trying to hit the Gengar level X here, but if he is able to hit Gengar level X, that would be a really great turn for him here. Just because he would get to item lock after a judge and then also get to shuffle in that level X. It's not super likely to happen off of a judge, but it definitely could happen. Both players are going to shuffle draw 4. Yeah. So he does hit that Candy Nidoqueen. Oh, with the Spiritomb active. Oh, Psych Pokebody, baby. Yeah, you can do that. What? No, you can definitely do that. I mean, it doesn't matter because you can retreat, but you can definitely Candy because the Dialgachomp level X is out. Yeah, okay. I don't know why he didn't do that. I guess he'll just retreat and do it, but you're definitely able to do that with the Pokebody. Interesting. I guess he's just holding it. So yeah, he goes for a Shadow Skip, puts 10 on the Uxie. Definitely the correct call here. 10 on the Garchomp's bad because any damage on the Garchomp is going to get Healing Breathed or Poke-turned. It's just not consistent damage that's going to stay on, but that damage on the Ux is going to stay there until it gets Psychic restored. Therefore, Josh goes for a Cyrus. He's going to go for... I don't know what he wants here. Hit DCE, so he might go E-Gain on the Garchomp so that he can Dragon Rush later in the game. Might also go for a Power Spray. Depends what he's looking for. It's tough to know what he wants to get with the Cyrus because he didn't really reveal his hand after the judge, so. Josh and I were actually discussing this deck, Dialgachomp, and like, Cyrus is a good card, but it really depends on the meta because Spiritomb is so good, and like, sometimes it's great to search out a supporter and search a trainer card and search an energy, but also, we were talking about how Professor Oak's new theory might be another like card that could be really good in Dialgachomp just because it lets you draw the DCEs and the special metals, and Cyrus doesn't search that, and those can be the really important energy, especially with Garchomp. Like finding a DCE can be the difference between keeping the swing and momentum and losing the swing and momentum. So definitely an interesting card that I think could be seen more play as time goes on. I think Pont is a really underrated card in the 2010 meta. Like Shuffle Draw 6 is just so good. So yeah, Trevor goes for a Collector here. He does kill that Spiritomb, but I think Trevor probably... oh yeah, I remember this game. So he goes for an Azulf here, I think, and he has the Gengar level X prized. So he's going to get it out of his prizes, which is really, really good for his board state right here. When he gets to move he probably wants to move the other damage back so that next turn he can just move it, because it goes down to 100, right? So he hits for 30 again, and then does 10 to the Ux. So he's going to go up to 70. If he moves another 10, it's at 80. Oh no, he's 10 off. He needs another 10 on the board, and then he would have been able to just move a damage to get a knock on the Dialga. But still super fine. I mean, not having to worry about killing the Dialga in 4 turns is great. Because if Josh would have hit another special metal on there, that would have been really bad. I mean, unless he finds an expert belt. But yeah, so he does go get the Gengar level X out of his prizes there. Definitely a good get. Boom. Finds the level X. Oh, these Pokemon look so cool. I love Gengar and Dialga G level X. They're such cool arts. Yeah, so he shuffles in the level X, which makes a lot of sense. So Josh is now trainer locked. And he got that Nidoqueen as well. So he's chilling pretty fat here. He's in a pretty good position, especially with all Josh's energy on one Pokemon. I think he's in a pretty good spot. If Josh is able to hit like Bronzong G and you get like Bronzong G and a special metal, he's pretty chill. And I mean, I guess at that point, all Trevor needs to hit is an expert belt, but you just have to kind of play to your outs at this point. Josh is kind of on the comeback here. I know they're tied on prizes and it looks even, but Josh's board is significantly less built than Trevor's board. Like Trevor's got a Dusknoir, he's got a Gengar level X, he's got 3 energy on it, he's got a Nidoqueen. He's chilling super hard here. He goes for the Cosmic Power. Draw some calls. Calls alright. Definitely a solid card. Second call and the Nidoqueen's actually kind of good. It means you get to Ruthless Tail later. I mean, with Dusknoir, your opponent's bench isn't that big, but he's at the point right now where he just has to, like, start putting out prizes. Because what's going to happen eventually is Josh is going to be put in a position where Trevor is taking prizes every 2 turns or every other, like, probably every other turn. Dialga is the one thing that takes a fair amount more turns to oh, if you would have hit the extra belt there, that would have been so clutch. Dialga is one of the things that takes a fair amount of time to knock out because of the special metals and because of psychic resistance. So I think, yeah, Trevor's definitely in a super chill spot here. This is exactly where Gengar wants to be, with just chucking Spiritombs active. You know, kill the Spiritomb, I don't care, I'm going to keep my energy, and you're going to be trainer locked. So he does hit the Beyblades though, so he's probably going to go for, really depends what's in his hand. He might go for a Dialga-G, depending if he wants to get some trainers down, because this is like probably one of the last opportunities he's going to get to play trainer cards for the rest of this game. With that Gengar level X out, it just means that whenever he hits a Dialga, even if he hits it, it's just like not going to live. So he does go for that Dialga. It means he's probably got some trainers in his hand that he wants. If he hits like Warp Energy Dialga or Warp Energy Garchomp level X, that could be a really, really good turn. Okay, so he might have the Warp actually, or a Switch in his hand potentially. Switch or Warp Point. But yeah, he's probably gonna get the heal off this turn, which is really, really good for Josh. I think he's definitely in a decent position there if he's able to get a healing breath off. Oh yeah, so he does have the Switch. That's awesome. So he's gonna heal off that 80 damage, really great. And then he's just gonna attach the DCE and kill the Spiritomb. So Trevor's in a position now where he's got to hit some Pokemon recovery. I think he's got like 2 or 3 Spiritombs in the discard, and you want to recover those Pokemon so that later in the game you just want to keep chucking Spiritombs active literally for the whole game. So he's probably going to get one with the Roseanne here. I think there's 2 in his discard, so he's probably going to get one with the Roseannes, and then he's got to find a Pokemon recovery soon enough in the game if he wants to be continuing to lock with Spiritomb, because of that Dialga. Oh, he's got 2 more in deck, so he just gets 2. He's just gonna keep item lock for days, baby. So this is kind of an even board state now. I mean, Josh has come back a little bit. He's got a DCE on the Garchomp. He's ready to hit something for some damage. The Dialga is also fully healed. If he's able to get if Josh is able to hit like another Garchomp C on the board, he could be chilling really fat. I think that Trevor's gonna shuffle in the Dialga G. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but Josh is still in a pretty decent position here. He's still taking prizes. I mean, as long as you're like keeping on pace with Gengar, the late game is tough because they can just shuffle in your Dialga G just like that, and then judge you again. But as long as you're taking prizes, like if you keep energy attachments on your board, it shouldn't really matter, because hopefully you've thinned well enough that you have your resources in the late game. The thing about Gengar that's so good though is like he just gets to shuffle back the level X whenever he wants. So if your win condition is like a Garchomp and you're gonna Dragon Rush something for game, and you're like, okay, I needed one more prize and I just need a Dragon Rush, they can just shuffle back the level X every turn. So you have to be finding them every turn, and that can be a lot to ask, especially when your opponent's judging you and trainer locking you. So yeah, he found the extra belt. He's gonna hit the Dialga for fresh 50, and then he moved the damage, and then he's gonna switch back to the bench. Josh goes for a Pont, broken card, really, really good card. This list only plays 1, but we were talking about it, and we definitely agreed that, I mean, it's mostly his idea, but Pont is just such a good card, because like I said, it can just search those, not search, but it can find those resources that Cyrus can't. Like if you need a warp energy, Trevor just puts a little Gengar on that. I love that. It's so like him. Yeah, you can find like warp energy, you can find special metal, you can find double colorless. It also lets you hit like multiple card combos, because let's say you have a Cyrus, but you need to hit like double Poketurn, or you need to hit like Poketurn E-Gain. And like there are turns where you're like, if I don't hit this, it's very likely that I lose the game at this point. Like, once you understand how 2010 games work, you can kind of understand the flow of a game and at what point you can't come back. And there are turns where you're like, wow, I'm behind a couple prizes. I really need to hit a bunch of stuff this turn, and Pont just lets you potentially hit that combo, whereas like Cyrus is like, well, you can hit one piece of the combo, but you can't hit two galactic parts in a single turn. And especially in a meta where Gengar is good and Gardevoir is good, Judge is a pretty prevalent card, having the opportunity to use double Cyrus doesn't happen all the time. It definitely happens, but I think that with Gengar and Guardy being as good as they are, it's definitely less frequent that happens. He's gonna move a damage card into the Garchomp. I wonder if he's gonna remember to shuffle in the Garchomp. I mean, the Dialg is a really important part that you remember, but oh, so he forgets to shuffle in the Garchomp, so that's really good for Josh. I mean, Josh now has the opportunity to have a Dragon Rush here, which is great. I mean, all he needs is attach, and then he can Dragon Rush. If he would have shuffled in the Garchomp, Josh would have been in a significantly worse position because he would need to find the Garchomp. He might have one in his hand as well, but definitely something that Trevor missed. I mean, Trevor doesn't frequently play this deck in 2010. He really likes Dialgachomp, and it was funny. We were even like talking at the beginning of the game, and he's like, "How much is like Gengar's attack?" And we told him one Psychic, one Colorless, because we thought we were talking about the Fainting Spell Gengar, and then he was actually talking about the Arceus Gengar. So he like attached 2 energy and he's like, okay, I'm gonna use the attack, and then we were like, oh no, that one's 3, and he's like, oh well, I mean, I attached this energy here with you guys telling me it was 2, and we were like, psych, get wrecked. But yeah, so Trevor definitely in a solid position here. I mean, he's got 2 energy on the Nidoqueen, 3 on the Gengar. All he needs is 1 more energy on the Nidoqueen to start attacking with that, if it does so choose. I mean, if the only way that he starts attacking with a Nidoqueen is if the Gengar gets double Dragon Rushed, which I just don't think is going to happen. And see that level X shuffle does actually matter this turn, because Josh is going to Dragon Rush, and now Trevor's out of Claydol, and I don't think Josh had the option to find a Garchomp in his hand. He might have, but the odds with his deck being as big as it is, and him being trainer locked, it's unlikely. So yeah, Josh goes into 3 prizes. Trevor's still at 4. I do think Trevor's board state is still significantly better. He's ahead on attaches. He's ahead on Pokemon in play. He's going to be healing over turns, so definitely chill. I don't even know if I think he hit the Spiritomb for a heal, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, Trevor's going to go for, I don't know what he's got in his hand. Kind of depends. He honestly just needs more Spiritombs. That is what he needs. He doesn't really need that Claydol anymore. He just needs to find more Spiritombs. I was just thinking about how he's going to arrange stuff. Oh yeah, I don't even think he's going to really play anything this turn. He's just, he's Night Maintenancing. Cool. So he's probably got a Night Maintenance, and then he's going to Roseanne's for some Spiritombs likely. So I think that's definitely a good play. Getting more Spiritombs into play. It's important. Yep. Definitely important to get your Spiritombs back. Spiritomb, baby, really good card. He's probably got a Roseanne's or something here to search it. Maybe a Bebe search. Oh, Collector. Yeah, there you go. So he's going to get 2 back and 3. Probably just gonna get 3. It doesn't really matter what you get with this Collector. I mean, you need to get 1 Spiritomb. Maybe 2 is good, but once you're at the point in the game where you're here, like, you just need to find Spiritomb. So he's probably just gonna go for Trip Spiritomb if he has that option at this point in the game. I mean, 2 Spiritombs and something else, just because Josh has 3 prizes left. And thinning is great. When you get a Collector, yeah, going for a Ghastly, I like that. When you have a Collector, always go for the well, not always actually. Sometimes go for the 3rd card, but only if Claydol's not an issue. So you go for the 3rd card because you thin your deck 1 more card, and it just means your top deck next turn is more likely to be something good that you want. But the only time that you don't do that is when you want a Claydol for a bunch of cards. Then it just clogs up your hand, and the opportunity to draw it is much better than guaranteed having it in your hand and not having that potential to draw the card that you need. So Trevor's going to go for, oh yeah, that's great. That is very good. So he moves the damage there. Josh doesn't have a Garchomp C on his bench, so he doesn't have the option to just retreat and Healing Breath next turn. And Trevor's just going to go for a Shadow Skip here. So he goes for a Shadow Skip, hits for 80, and then he's probably going to hit the Ooks for 10. Oh, hits a Dialga for 10, yep. Okay. Yeah, Trevor's in a very advantageous position here. That expert belted Gengar, woof, that is a big threat because it keeps retreating to the bench. So, I mean, in a format, if you're not playing a Luxray line, you just have no option to kill that except with double Garchomp snipe. Which with Nidoqueen doesn't even work. So you have to have a Dialga in play, and then you need a double snipe again. And then he's just going to shuffle your Dialga back. So it's kind of interesting how Trevor hitting the Gengar level X early was able to impact the game so much. I mean, Josh's start was so mediocre and it's so unfortunate. But that Gengar level X, I think he hit it on like turn 4, and it's definitely been doing a lot of work this game. I mean, shuffling that Dialga back was kind of a big deal. Not only for the HP, but also for the Pokebody not being able to hit the Pokebody. Ooh, there you go. Boom. He's able to hit for a fresh 60 with the Apom or Ambipom because there's no energy on that Spiritomb. It does have colorless resistance, but Josh is smart enough to know that and drops a damage counter on it before. Definitely a good play by Josh there. Yeah, I mean, Trevor's definitely got Spiritombs for days in his hand, but Josh can definitely win this game for sure. He just needs to find some Garchomp pieces so that he can start Dragon Rushing. His win condition here is like Dragon Rush, Azelf, Dragon Rush, Spiritomb. So if he's able to hit that before before Trevor can take 3 prizes, he can definitely win the game. I think the problem with that is Trevor has the option to OHKO pretty much anything on his board at this point. I mean, except for the Dialga. So, I mean, and when you have to put the Dialga up, that kind of sucks because, it's psychic resistant, but also if you're not attacking with it, essentially a free prize that they're just going to not only take 2 prizes on, but they're also going to drop 2 damage counters on your bench somewhere, and that can be really bad in the late game because if you have a Garchomp C level X that has 110 HP, if they have 2 damage on it already, and then they shadow skip something else and then put a 3rd damage on it, they can just move the 3rd damage on, and if there's 3 on a Garchomp C level X, it's got 80 HP left, and that's exactly how much Gengar's doing right now. So if Trevor manipulates his board damage right, I think he's definitely got this game in the bag. And it also really depends what Josh has here. Josh needs to start hitting some Garchomps, or it's just not going to happen for him this game, I don't think. Because eventually he's just going to start chucking that Gengar active when he goes down to 1 prize, and he's like, kill this Gengar. And if you don't have that option, I mean, you can't just OHKO the Gengar unless you play something dark, and that just isn't a thing in this deck. So, oh yeah, Josh is just going to have to retreat here. Not an awesome turn, but he did hit that Garchomp, so he's still got a way to win this game for sure. He just needs to draw pretty well off of this, and this is kind of the interesting position where I think Pont is really good, because to come back from this point, I mean, it's tied on prizes, but Josh is coming back right now because his board position is significantly worse, and especially with the Fainting Spell Gengar hitting the board, it's just like you're not in a position where you can start trading really well. Okay, yeah, that's definitely a bad call. Definitely don't do that. Yeah, so especially with the Fainting Spell Gengar, like, you can just start Shadow Rooming stuff. You can move a damage counter onto the Crobat and then Shadow Room it, and then even if Josh is able to OHKO the Gengar, it doesn't matter. So he literally needs to have that Garchomp in place so that he can start taking out stuff on the bench. But really, that's so interesting. Doesn't even attack this turn. Oh, War Point. Ah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay, so he puts the bat up. Ooh, that bat definitely has a damage counter on it. Definitely got a damage counter on it. Doesn't really matter, because he's just going to kill it, but... I mean, it can't... No, it doesn't have a damage counter on it? Maybe he moved it to the Dialga. That's probably what he did, actually. He probably moved it to the Dialga, because then he knows he can kill anything on the bench. Yeah, and Josh can't really afford to chuck the Crobat up. He wants to keep the Uxie too, because the Uxie can potentially attack or draw cards. I mean, if you top deck an Uxie level X and you need to see cards, that's also good. So I think that's correct, moving the Crobat into the active. But yeah, I think you just move the damage to the Dialga, which makes a lot of sense as well. And he just locks trainers again. So Josh needs to hit like... Jeez. Yeah, he needs to hit a lot of stuff this turn. I don't know if it's going to happen before... Because Trevor just wins next game with a Shadow Room. So I think he needs to... Wow, he needs to hit some stuff here. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. it can't put a G on that Uxie. He doesn't even play G in this list right now, so I think it's kind of over for Josh. I don't know a way that Josh can come back. That Uxie on his board, I mean, Shadow Room is just such a good attack. For one psychic, you snipe 60 to a Poke Power Pokemon, and with that damage counter on the Ux, unless Josh Psychic restores, but even then, like, he's got, well, it would actually be okay if he dropped like a Bronzong. If he goes like Bronzong bench. No, because he needs to level X the active, or he gets, no, he doesn't get one shot. No, he's fine. Yeah, so he needs to Psychic Restore here. And then next turn he needs to like level X Dialga and have a Warp Point and a Bronze on. Like, he needs a lot of stuff next turn, because you have to, he's gotta attack with Garchomp next turn, or it's just not gonna happen. As soon as Gengar starts Shadow Rooming, it's like, it's just setting up knockouts everywhere on the board. It Shadow Rooms the Garchomp for 30, and then you pretty much lose the game at that point. Because then, even if you bring the Garchomp up and attack with it, well, I guess Healing Breath. Healing Breath is good for that. But yeah, so if he brings the Garchomp up and attacks with it, I mean, Trevor could definitely hit it for 80 and then retreat to the bench, and choose not to retreat to the bench. So with that, it's definitely nice, because you're forcing your opponent to play a 7-prize game. Even if Josh is eventually able to take a prize, if you force the Gengar level X active, you're just saying, unless you have a War Point, you have to deal with this big tanky EX Pokemon essentially, that has 160 HP, and it just like doesn't happen. So yeah, Josh does go for the Psychic Restore here. Definitely the correct call. I mean, you lose the game to a fainting spell if you don't do that. So definitely a really good call on his part. Still definitely not a great position to be in here. I don't know what even can win him the game here. If he gets, so he's got an energy on the board. He needs like Dialga level X, Warp Point, Garchomp C level X, E-Gain DC. Yep, that's the cards that he needs. I guess, no, that wouldn't do it. He can't have Warp because he needs to have an energy on the Garchomp to attack with it. So he needs a Wombo combo, but it's definitely possible to have in his hand. Less likely now that he's getting judged, really less likely. So that's a great judge on Trevor's part. These are just like two really good players who know, I mean, obviously they've been playing for a long time, and they know when their opponent needs certain resources. And Trevor can clearly tell by the board that unless Josh pulls off something really crazy, the game's just not going to go his way. And when you drop a judge, you put your opponent down to 4 cards, and it's just like significantly less likely that they hit the cards they need off of a judge. So definitely a good call by Trevor to drop that judge that turn. But yeah, Josh literally needs to hit. So he's got 5 cards, and the 5 cards need to be Dialga level X, Warp Point. Oh, that's not it. Yeah. DCE, E-Gain, Garchomp C level X were the 5 cards that he needed. And yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen this turn, because he can go, Trevor can just go move the damage counter, and then, I mean, even if he retreats to the bench, you can just go move the damage counter and then shadow skip it for a knockout. So I don't think Josh needed literally the 5 cards this turn, or it wasn't going to happen. I mean, unless he's got a Garchomp C level X, that would be, if he draws that, he could be chilling here. Buy him some turns. Yeah, he just needs to hit it off the Uxie, because he's got an Uxie, but it's so tough when you're trainer locked. And see that it like doesn't even really matter now, because even if you hit the Garchomp C level X, like you can't hit the E-Gain this turn, and you need the E-Gain pretty bad this turn. So Healing Breath definitely buys you a turn or two, but okay, goes to the judge. Interesting. Yeah, I feel like dropping that Ux is also like, if you drop that Ux, you just lose the game, because Trevor just goes move a damage counter to it and then Shadow Room, and then you just lose. So definitely an intelligent call by him to not drop that. I might have lost that game by dropping that Uxie. Yikes. Well, it's actually possible here. If he hits, I think he's got to Ux, because he's got to hit Garchomp C level X and then Dialga, because he warped so he can Healing Breath and then retreat into the Dialga and Dialga level X. And then hopefully get a access to a power spray if he kills the Spiritomb. But yeah, it's just not gonna happen for him. He didn't hit the cards. It's kind of unfortunate. But off of a start like that, like that's definitely rough when you just start as Elf and then you don't have anything. Okay, well this has been Gengar versus Dialgachomp. If you have any questions about this matchup, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get to them. But thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.